Hi, kindergarten. We're making some art videos for you for this time that we're out of school. We're right here in our classroom. The only thing missing is you. But we get to do a really fun, very special project today. Last year, all of the kids in the school made cards that we sold as a fundraiser, and we decided it was such a great success that we're going to do it again this year. And the way the cards come is we do works of art, and then they come in nice little boxes like this. This is a variety of different cards that were painted by different students last year. They're just some really neat stuff. There's a nice African scene. But the one that you are going to be painting for your class project is going to be this beautiful Twin Peaks project. Look at all the colors in that. Isn't that gorgeous? So here is the sample of it, and the one you're going to be doing is going to be a little bit smaller, and it's going to be on a special template made for these card designs. So let's get started. I want to share a couple of things about this type of watercolor painting that you're going to do before we start. It's called Wet in Wet, and what we're going to do is we're going to take your brush and we're going to wet just certain sections of your painting, and then you'll just lay the watercolor in there, and then that's how you get these cool effects like this, because the colors just kind of swim together when you do that. And when you get your paper, it's going to look like this. This is the template I was telling you about, and I have taken regular school glue and put black paint in it and made the little walls here. We've done some watercolor resist where you take a black crayon and then you put watercolor inside, and the crayon and the watercolor don't like each other very much, so they stay apart. The same thing with this glue. So you'll be painting inside of different areas. And yours will look just like this. It'll have your name. Mrs. Guillory wrote your name and our school for every single one of these templates. Thank you, Mrs. Guillory. Okay. Here is my sample. Remember, the first thing we do is always the same, but Mrs. Guillory already put your name on your project, so you don't need to. Okay, go ahead and lay your project like this, and on yours, I have put blue tape around here to help keep it nice and neat. The first thing, we're going to moisten our watercolors. Okay, take your brush, and we're going to start with the lightest color first. We're going to use all the colors in our palette except for black and brown. We won't use those for this project. So you're going to take a brush full of paint, of water, and just kind of lay it in your paint. We don't want to stir it or anything. See how I'm just kind of dripping that in there? And it may take several brushes full of water to get enough water in there. And that looks kind of dark, but once that mixes in there, it'll be fine. So the next darker color would be, let's see, orange. We're going from light to dark. So I'm going to put a little bit of water, actually quite a bit of water, in the orange. You want to pretty much fill up this little divot here. And our next darkest color is going to be red. So we'll put some water in our red. And the reason we're doing this is we are softening our paints so that we can get nice, bright, vivid colors. So what do you think the next dark color would be? Let's see, red's pretty dark, but it's not as dark as blue and purple. I bet green's going to be our next one to put water in. It may take you, if you have a smaller brush than mine, it may take you several brushes full of water to get the divot pretty well filled up. You need to be very careful that you don't spill it and don't mix. You don't want to mix your paints between here. We need to keep our watercolors pure, because if you get your colors all mixed up here, then you've got a mess. This part of your watercolor kit, this top part here, has little walls in it, and this area is designed for mixing. So if you're doing a project and you want to mix some colors, like say we want to make yellow-orange, I would take some yellow and put it here and some orange and put it here and mix it together, but you don't want to mix it inside your little paint divots. Okay, our next color that we're going to use, we've done all of them except for purple. Let's put some water, and purple is a very dense color and doesn't take quite as much water to get a nice bright purple. I think I'm going to put some more in my blue. In between each of these colors, you notice I'm washing my brush. And we don't ever want to leave our brush in the can, because if you do that, he comes out and it gives him a bad hair day and he's not very happy. So we take our brush And don't ever tap it on the can because that can splatter water all over your project and your neighbors. So just touch on the edge of the can like this to get most of the drops off of it, and then lay it down on your paper towel. Make sure you've got you some kind of a paper towel. All right, I am ready to get started. The first area we're going to do, guys, is we're going to do our sun. We need to make our sun mostly yellow because so it's bright, with a teeny weeny itty bitty little bit of orange in here. And then after we do our sun, then we'll start with our horizon here and go with yellow and bleed that up into oranges and reds. Look back here at the sample. See how it starts with yellow here, and then we add some oranges. Isn't that cool? We're going to get some wonderful effects like that. We're going to make our sun yellow so that it has a nice contrast against the black background there. Okay, yellow paint, here we come. You're going to be very careful. You don't ever stir this paint. You just reach in there and just, so you push your brush hard enough that you can just barely feel the bottom of the paint little pod there. And before you do that, you need to lay some water in here. I was telling you it was wet and wet. So lay some water only in the middle of your sun. These videos are designed so that you can hit the pause button anytime and take your time on each step. You notice my paper is kind of turning dark. That doesn't make any difference. When this dries, that darkness will go away. Okay, you need to put enough water in just the sun that it looks shiny. Kind of lean down and look at it and make sure it's all shiny all the way across. Now we're going to get some yellow paint in our brush, just gently, and just kind of lay it in there. We're not painting, we're laying it in there. And you don't quite go to the edge. It'll work its way to the edge. Now we want to have a little bit of orange in there, so let's get a touch of orange, not very much, because remember orange is a darker color. And just put a few drops of orange in there and then just leave it alone. Look at those swirlies. Isn't that cool looking? I might even want to put a little bit more yellow right smack dab in the middle because it's looking a little thin. Just touch it. We're not painting like we're painting a wall. Just touch it and then let the magic of watercolor do its thing. And clean my brush out. Maybe another little touch, maybe just one molecule of orange right here in the middle. Just to give a little bit of color. The paper's kind of bending up and it does that, but it'll flatten back out. Isn't that cool? All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to moisten our sky. Just plain water. Very carefully, don't go quite to the black. And always pull your brush. If you push your brush, you don't have very much control over it. If you pull your brush, it's much easier to control, but remember you're not quite touching the black with it. If you do touch the black, it won't hurt anything. See how my paper's turning dark? That tells me that I'm getting water on it, and it's just perfect. That darkness goes away when the project completely dries. So around your sun, and we'll have to re-wet this area several times as we're mixing our paint. Come over here between your mountains and between the edge. You can take your water and your paint clear up onto that blue tape. It won't hurt a thing. But try and stay just a little ways away from the black. And if you get some little specks, it looks like I've got some little specks, we can just pretend those are little birdies flying in the distance. Okay, now I've got water all in there, but a lot of this water has soaked into the paper. So I need to go back and put some more on there. It takes a lot of patience to do this, but I think you guys, kindergarten, you have grown so much this year. I'm so proud of you. That's why I'm going to let you guys do this cool project. Just take your time and have fun with it. Here I am with layer number 2 of just water. This is one of those stages in a work of art where it doesn't look very pretty, but I guarantee it will look pretty. All right, our layer of water is on there, and before it has a chance to dry, we're going to take some just plain yellow paint and just very gently, I'm daubing here, I'm not painting, I'm daubing it along here. And get some more yellow and put it down in this little corner. And you can pause this video anytime. You need to do this relatively quickly so that our paints, when they put the orange in there, so that our paints will, and if it looks like your watercolor is not moving, go ahead and add some more water to it. There we go. Now we've got some yellow going on here. Get my brush full of water again, grab some orange. I'm going to start above where I was and then come down to it. Remember, we're not painting, we're just daubing. I'm going to let the watercolor run. We don't want it running onto our mountains because we got some nice cool colors to do our mountains with. Just kind of daub, 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 and let it rip. Just let it run. Well, that's looking very cool. And take your orange up quite a ways because we've got a little bit of a yellow orange going on here, and we're gonna have a little bit of a red orange up here at the top. Now, if it looks like you got too distinct of a line, just take some plain water and daub it in there, and you'll get a little bit more of a gentle fade of your colors. All right, keeping moving because this stuff does dry pretty quickly. Now, I need to re-wet up here so that my red, when I put my red on, so it'll blend in and flow with the orange. Okay, a little bit of red. Remember, red is a lot darker color than the others, so just one brush full of red may do the whole thing for you. Push along here, trying to stay away from that black the best you can, and let it flow. Just let it do its thing. Oh, watercolor is so cool. All right, we're done with our sky, and it will look completely different when it dries. Now, looking back at our sample, we have little snow caps on top of our mountains, so we are not going to paint inside of this triangle area. We're going to use cool colors, including red, for our mountains, and we used warm colors. Remember, we've talked about warm and cool colors in art. Colors that make you think of fire or think of something hot, or colors that make you think of ice. But we're going to add a little bit of red to our cool colors down here because when it blends with our purple, we get kind of a red-violet. All right, here we go. Once again, starting from the bottom. This is going to be drying up here. Go ahead and put just water on just the left-handed mountain. Now, your drawing does not look exactly the same as mine. As I was doing these, I made each one of them a little bit different when I was putting in the glue on here. And remember, you want to try and keep your water away from that because that is just school glue and it will dissolve if you get a bunch of water on it. Just our left-handed mountain. There, my paper's turning dark. That means that it's getting nice and wet. And if it's not shiny, it's not wet enough. Don't worry about your paper curling up. There we go, got it all wet. If you need to pause the video and spend a couple of more minutes getting it all nice and wet, go right ahead. When you turn it back on, I'll be right here with you. Okay, got lots of water on there. The first color I'm going to put on there is going to be blue. I'm going to be a little bit sloppy with this. I don't want to slop it over here, but I'm going to be, it's not real precise, but be careful. See how I got a dot there? It's easy to get splashes. So when you're sloppiness, you need to be a little careful with it. Okay, there's blue, and I think I'm going to take my blue maybe up a little bit higher. Oh, blue is a bright color. When you get these little hills in your paper, put a little extra paint on the top of them. Now, while everything's still wet, I'm going to clean my brush out, get it full of water again, and I'm going to get me some red, and start away from it, and then let it flow into it. Because if you go to painting it, you're just going to have all one color, but we want all of these. See how we're doing blop, 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 blop. You can even say that with me. Blop, 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 blop. Making lots of blops. And continue your red all the way up to here. In fact, I think I'm going to go back and get just a touch more. I had you guys put water in your green, but we are not using green with this project. Okay, at the very top, I'm going to put a teeny weeny itty bitty bit of purple. Purple Mountains Majesty. I'm getting some dots all over my paper, but that happens. Trying to be nice and neat. There we go. Isn't that cool? You can kind of blend in, but very gently, some of these other areas. Now this will look different when it dries. All right, now we're going to do the other mountain over here. Cleaning your brush out. Now we're going to do just water on the right-hand side of the mountain. Just water. And remember, we're not doing any painting of the snow cap. It's just going to stay white. Well, we're almost done with this. You guys are really doing a good job. Wish I could see your work right now. Okay. Lots of water in there. My paper's turning this weird color of grayish brown. As this dries, that grayish brown goes away and your colors will begin to pop. Okay, what was the first color we used? It was blue. Let's do something a little different and start with purple. Oh, this purple is bright. It is very intense. You'll need to get some more water and just use little bits of it. Careful you don't splash as much as I did on the other one. Oh, isn't that cool? Look at the way that's running all over the place. That is so cool. Now I'm going to get some blue, mix in with this purple. Oh, that is very pretty. And at the very top, I think I'll get some red. I'm going to clean my brush out. Get some red and touch that in between the little chunks of snow. Okay, very cool. Now the thing about painting that I have discovered over the years is it's really easy to overdo it, and knowing when to stop is critically important. I could mess with this all day, but it is time to stop. However, I'm going to completely clean my brush. I'm going to go back and smooth out some of these little dots I got. I've got just plain water in my brush, and you see how some of these dots are getting a little bit softer. You don't want to overdo that, or you could rub a hole in your paint, but it might help soften them a little bit so they don't look too dark. But they could very well be a flock of birds. There we go, that softens some of them. Okay, we are finished. Now you got to leave this sit like this for at least overnight. Just leave it right on your table. Don't try and pick it up or your water's going to run all over the place. And also remember that your paint kit, you don't want to pick it up until tomorrow, because if we tip it, guess what happens? The paint's going to run into other different pots. So you got to wash your brush really, really well. Never tap, just touch. Lay it on your paper towel, gently twist and pull, and that brings our brush to a nice point. Lay him in here, put him, say goodnight to the brush. Close your paint kit and leave it just like that. Okay guys, this is the end of this lesson. We will have more to come. God bless you, stay inspired, and keep making art.